Hi, sisters are doing it for themselves. Andrew, and this is Gayties Toys. We've not talked about She-Ra and the Princess of Power in quite some time, and that's not to say that there isn't, a lot to get through, specifically with unmade prototypes. So today we're going to be looking at a trio of characters who, based off of all the marketing and hoopla around them, you would swear actually made it to the toy line, but in fact did not. And that being Starla, Jewel Star, and Tall Star, better known as the Star Sisters. Princess of Power is one of those strange lines where it's almost this bizarro world where, typically I say these female figures were made because of sexism, but in She-Ra land, you're like, well, where were the dudes? I mean, I could do a whole series called Am I a 80s Gentleman, but I'm not going to do that, and it doesn't even rhyme. In the last video, for Joya and the Bubble Carriage, we went through much more of the history of Princess of Power toy line, especially in relation to the Masters of the Universe toy line. You can go back and watch that if you need a little recap. But in that video, I did sort of discuss how Wave 3 in 1987 was going to be much more expansive before Mattel really pulled the plug. Amongst them was a trio of sisters who, had, let's say, familiar powers to Masters of the Universe. That said, they were, well enough in development where we've seen prototypes. We've seen a lot of marketing materials in magazines, in books, on the TV show. So these are characters that, they've sort of taken on a life of their own, in a sense, because, we were sort of almost promised it. We've seen the prototypes. We've seen so much about them, but we're robbed of the chance of owning them. Because the toy line and the cartoon were a little disparate in terms of continuity, the origins of the Star Sisters are a little different, or maybe not even touched on. In the cartoon, they appeared very briefly in one episode called Bo's Magical Gift, and essentially they had a handful of lines. I mean, there was really sort of, inserted there to prepare you for the toys that, again, never happened. Within the realm of the toy line, the origin is much more that they were trapped inside of a comet. Through a series of mishaps involving Swiftwind, She-Ra, rescued them, and they vowed to help her protect Etheria. Of the three, each of them, again, have some familiar powers. So first up, we have Jewel Star. She would be a character with a very unique body type. It's covered in jewels, who would sort of crouch down and transform into a larger jewel. This might be familiar if you're a fan of the Rock people. So Rock-On and Stone-Dar had a very, very similar action feature in the Masters of the Universe toy line. And I feel like Jewel Star in particular was the one get I really wanted. A, because she was a unique sculpt, but also because, she would have been a great custom, fodder for if you were to make Granita from the cartoon or Pebblast from the mini comics. She could have been easily repainted to be one of the female Rock people. Next up is Tall Star, who is, very much an homage to Extendar. I'm not a fan of Extendar. I think that figure was just a brick of a toy, but Tall Star I quite like as well. She really uses, bendy straw technology to make herself grow taller, but much more ingenious, much more, interesting and useful than Extendar just pulling out the joints. And last up, of course, is Starla, who is very familiar to any fan of 80s cartoons. And you might be thinking, what's her power? It's blonde. Blonde was the color of Leader's hair in the 80s. Hard stop. Amidst the prototypes, we also see that they would come with a little bird companion, this time called Glory Bird, which I keep trying to call another name, and I'm not doing another take. Glory Bird is another bird that's used from the original Big Jim Eagle. This eagle made its way into Masters of the Universe as Zoar and Screech, and finally, make its grand introduction into the She-Ra world, this time as Glory Bird, all pink with a fruity little hat. Of the toys planned for Wave 3, maybe even Wave 4, these were clearly the most, well in development. We saw prototypes. They looked like they were just ready to go. And likewise, you kept seeing them in Ladybird books. They had the very, briefest appearance in the She-Ra cartoon. Although in that cartoon, they looked shockingly similar to their toy prototypes, which in Filmation never happened. Likewise, you'd see them on magazine, covers. They were very much, three characters who seemed to be kind of like leading the wave of sorts. Like you always had a She-Ra and a Catra, but Star Sisters were pushed massively. However, the whole line was, cut short pretty quickly by Mattel, so we never got them. However, since their, untimely end in the 80s, they've kind of been taken on a bit of a cult following from She-Ra fans. Um, in season 3, or what would have been season 3 of the 2000X Mike Young He-Man series, She-Ra and the Horde were meant to play a bit of a part. I very much doubt that the Star Sisters would have played any kind of role in this. There were a lot of characters to get through before them. There was a lot to do in that season, so not likely, but you never know. And of course, there's been, fan creations of a, 2000X style of the Star Sisters. Their first real appearance came in 2012 during the Masters of the Universe Classics period of toys. They came as a 3-pack, which is quite possibly, what was intended originally. We've seen packaging for the figures. I think they were meant to be sold individually, but I mean, this was really a, an opportunity to get the whole faction as a whole. They're really great, and again, much like the originals would be, there was some really great, unique sculpting there. Some, Tallstar had, her tallining, embiggening feature. Just a great set, and great, like a nice little, bow at the end of, a long waiting period of waiting to get these toys. Likewise, in this 3-pack, there would be another glory hole, Glory Bird, who would be included in this. Much like the last time, this bird would be a rehash of the other mold for this bird that was used for Zor, Screech, even the DC Universe Classics line. So, again, pink bird, fruity hat, welcome addition to this 3-pack. The Star Sisters would also make an appearance in the 2018 Netflix series She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. In that, originally they were essentially just a glorified cameo, but would get their own feature episode eventually, this time being called the Star Siblings because Jewel Star was a gender-bent character. Also, I mean, if you've seen this series, it is another bizarre world. You kind of just assume everyone's gay unless proven otherwise, so they gay, okay? Time of recording, there's like half a dozen Masters of the Universe lines going on right now, so nothing planned at this moment. I would venture a guess, they're not high on the list of Mondo or even the Masterverse line. However, Origins and its sort of sister series cartoon collection, this is where I would suspect to see these, in the next year or so. So 2025 is apparently the 40th anniversary of She-Ra, which, woof. There's a lot of characters to get through in this line. I mean, Mattel's been, trickling them out over the years, but not really, to any kind of, fast team building. That said, I mean, rumors are abound that 2025 will really push a lot more Princess of Power characters into, at the very least, the cartoon collection. So, again, I don't think Star Sisters are high priority. They've not really appeared on packaging as a tease as of yet, but I think if there's anywhere for these girls to go, that would be it. Them and their little Glory Bird. And that's it for the Star Sisters and Glory Bird. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for commenting, subscribing, all those YouTubey things. Thank you for letting me mess up a bird's name. And I will see you next time on MIA 80s Ladies.